So, growing up with a disability in a mainstream world can obviously have its challenges. What was the hardest obstacle you were forced to overcome?
Yeah, I think I don't really look back on my childhood as overcoming obstacles. I grew up completely surrounded by able-bodied people. I was the only disabled person I knew, so I never really thought that I was different. I just did what everyone else did. I guess it's silly, but the only obstacle that got in my way was sport. I was, anything active, I was immediately turned away from, immediately told, it's not for you, you can't do that, you're disabled, you can't do sport. And I think that's probably what drove me to do what I do. I'm an athlete, so it's probably why I do that. But yeah, like growing up, the only obstacles I just saw as opportunities to prove people wrong. When I was born, doctors told my parents that I would never walk and I'd probably never talk, which is something that they wish was true every single day. But yeah, I took my first steps when I was 3 years old, and I can't walk long distances, and I use a wheelchair outside. And I live a fully independent life, so I think I always found a way to overcome anything anyone put in my way.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that a bit I forced away to the work I pumpkin so I never of that getting from what they were doing.
Yeah, Josh was just saying it's a bit like him. He's obviously grown up with his disability and, around able-bodied people as well. And he's also always tried to get involved with anything they're doing anyway. So it always seemed just normal, like to try and take part in things. And for the best part of your life, really, you've been able to do what you want to do, really, haven't you? So, yeah.
Yeah, I think you have to do that. I think people are too quick to put science and medical things on top of you and not just wait and see what you grow into and what you can do. I didn't meet another disabled person until I was 12 years old. So as far as I knew, I was the only disabled person in the world, and that was fine. I was just it, so I could just get on with it. And yeah, I don't know, like we can do what we want, so it's fine.
That's a bit like you living on the island, wasn't it? Yeah.
Living on the island, the same room, mom, she, is not one the
Yeah. Growing up on the Isle of Wight, like Josh has, there's also almost like a stigma. He's saying that he was like a disabled child, and as soon as he knew another disabled child, it was like, oh, you must know so-and-so who's also disabled. There was just like a small community of just, a handful of disabled children on the island growing up, and oh, you must know who that person is.
Yeah. For some reason, people think we all know each other, like, oh, you're in a wheelchair, you must know whoever. And the embarrassing thing is, 99% of the time, I do know them. So it looks like we all know each other. But I think as well, I'm really bad for, I didn't really understand it to begin with. Like when I first met disabled people, they went, oh, what sport do you do? I was like, I don't do sport, I'm disabled. And now I look, I go past someone in the street and I think, oh, I wonder what sport they do. They look like a basketball player. They look like a swimmer. They look like this. I don't know. There's this assumption that every disabled person is a para athlete of some description, and we all know each other. We're all, we're such a tight knit community. I think people forget there are literally millions of us. We're everywhere.
Absolutely. Okay, moving on. Making your Olympic debut at the London 2012 Games, I imagine, was a special moment. How do you think this event was the catalyst to raising the profile of the international Paralympic sports?
London 2012 was just something else. And I only really realised that now. Now I'm further down. Now I've done another Paralympics. At the time, I just thought London 2012 was what Paralympics was. You know, it was incredible. It was surreal. You know, we had 80,000 people, 2 sessions a day for 10 whole days. We had people, you know, we had Paralympians on the front of every newspaper, every magazine, on the news. It just took over the country. It was amazing. And I just, you know, as a naive 20-year-old, thought, all right, that's what Paralympics is. Cool, all right. And then I obviously went to Rio and learned that actually London was a big deal. London was something that could never have been expected. And I think the big thing was that we obviously got the amazing TV coverage from Channel 4, and just having that round the clock para sport being pushed out there just made people a little bit more comfortable around us. I think it made people understand disability a bit better. It made them realize that, you know, every disability is different and every single one of us is different. So what we're doing when we're out there, you can't really compare one athlete to the next, not even in the same race, because we are all completely unique. And also they weren't afraid of pushing it, you know, pushing it in the sense that obviously before, I hope people saw the campaign because I'm part of it, but they had obviously the Superhumans campaign going into London 2012 where it said thanks for the warm-up. You know, Channel 4 weren't afraid to be cheeky. They weren't afraid to kind of push their luck a bit and upset people. And then we obviously had the last leg as well, which made people realise that, oh, disabled people are humans. They just like to have a laugh and they have a life, and, you know, they do sport and they go out with their friends, and that's great. And I really think that was what changed Paralympic sport for a lot of people. You know, people didn't feel sorry for us anymore. They either laughed at us the way that we can laugh at ourselves, or they just were enthralled with what we were doing. You know, they were looking at us as elite athletes, which is what we are. You know, I don't know why I sound surprised by that, but I think, you know, for a long time the Paralympics were just a pity games. You know, people will always say to me, oh, you're in the other Olympics. Oh, you're in the one after the Olympics. No, I'm in the Olympics. I'm just 2 weeks after.
Yeah.
Not a big difference.
Yeah.
So I think that's how London changed it.
Yeah, absolutely. 2012 was a great year for you, beginning with breaking the record for the T34 100 meters in London, and then again at the Swiss National Championships later that month, finishing in 17.6 seconds. How was this the perfect springboard to such a defining year in your athletics career?
You remember the year better than me. Yeah, I think I hadn't been in the sport that long. I'd been in the sport for 5 years when I went to London 2012. So I think at that point in an athlete's career, you're still learning things. You're still, you know, there's still so much you can do and change in your technique and your practice and your training and everything you do, that the improvements just come. So to be honest, those improvements had year on year. So it wasn't a surprise to break world record. It wasn't a surprise to go and win a race. It's just what I expected from myself, which probably sounds really big-headed, but my classification at the time was still developing, and there wasn't that much competition, especially within Britain. So the competitions that I actually competed at were not what we saw, you know, definitely not what we see now, but not what we saw at London 2012. That was not my usual lineup. But I mean, I brought the first ever world record in the London Stadium. So I feel like, you know, it was nice to be making history before the games had even started. I think it set it up well for me. And it made me have a bit of a presence before the games even started. I was just, you know, at that point, a 19-year-old girl from Halifax who, you know, wasn't anything in Beijing. You know, I wasn't there, I wasn't racing, I wasn't anything to do with the sport, and I've come through, and it just shows what opportunity can do. So yeah, 2012 was quite a special year, the whole of it.
Yeah. On 31st of August 2012, you won Great Britain's first track gold medal since 2004. What impact did the home Paralympics have on the success?
Oh yeah, first track medal on the track. First track medal on the track? What am I about? First medal on the track in quite a few years was. I obviously didn't know that. You know, when I won the medal, I was just winning the medal. And then I kind of learned that later on. I know that the team had an absolutely terrible time in Beijing. We won one gold medal in the whole athletics team, which is dire. um, so yeah, pretty chuffed. I think the last wheelchair racing gold medal before me, female wise, had been Tanni Grey-Thompson. So it was quite a good crown to try and take, I think. But you know what? None of it mattered when I was there. It was gold. It'd been what I'd been training for so long, what I'd dreamt of for so long.
Yeah.
And I tell you what, just it being a home games, nothing beats it. I can't even put it into words. Like the noise in that stadium was deafening. And you kind of felt like you couldn't come last because I don't know, they were going to cheer for you whatever you did, but I just knew that that was my moment and I had to take it and believe in myself, really. I think all the other things that come with a medal are nice, but really, ever since then, I've just been in it for the gold. And then I got that.
It's a bit like you
Yeah, this is a bit like the next question that we've got lined up for you. You mentioned a very famous name. So in what ways did athletes such as Tanni Grey-Thompson help break down the barriers of Paralympic sport?
I think, you know, obviously prior to me, again, it sounds really big-headed. Prior to London 2012, where the likes of myself and Johnny Peacock and Rich Whitehead and, you know, all my teammates kind of became household names. I think people could name 3 disabled people in the world, and they were Tanni, Adi Adepitan, and Ellie Simmons. That was kind of it. But they broke down those barriers by being the 3 names that people could name. They put, you know, Tanni put my sport on the map. She was the first person that I met that did sport. She took me under her wing and kind of taught me how to start and where to go. So, you know, I can never be more thankful to her for what she gave me at the start of my career. But you only notice it now. You know, we were talking about how far the Paralympics have come because of London 2012. Prior to that, the fight must have been so hard just to get your name out there, to get people to recognize what you're doing. You know, Tanni was nominated for Sports Personality of the Year in like 1998, I want to say, something like that, 96, 98. She came 3rd and there wasn't a ramp onto the stage, which is just ridiculous. But at that time, it probably wasn't even thought about.
No.
So for her to, you know, she had to, you know, put up with that ignorance so that now when we go to awards and we go to dinners and, you know, whatever we turn up at, we feel included. And without those names preceding us, we'd be having those fights now. And I don't know if I'd be as polite as she probably was.
Definitely. I missed the middle bit. The what? The Paralympic. Oh yeah, all of the audience. Yeah. Whatever it is. Yeah. Josh just said when he's interviewed Tanni Grey-Thompson, and she said she mentioned back in the 80s that all of the audience were religious.
and so they will take team home.
No, so they would pick a team that they'd want to support.
So they want even from that.
Oh, they weren't even from that country. Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Oh dear. Yeah. Anything else? No, move on. Okay, cool. Okay, so in 2014, you took part in a special Paralympic edition of Strictly Come Dancing, partnering Pasha Kovalev. How do you think this inspired TV producers to think more creatively about the inclusion of disabled celebrities in entertainment programming?
Being part of the comic release Strictly Come Dancing was another game changer really, that I probably didn't appreciate at the time. But everyone now goes, oh, Johnny was the first Paralympian, and I'm like, no, I was on the show first. I don't know if it encouraged them to keep putting us on. We were hard work. There was myself, Nathan Stevens, there was Martine, and there was David, a footballer. So 2 wheelchairs, an amputee, and a blind guy. And honestly, I have never worked harder than that week of training. It was a one-off, obviously, because it was a charity special. And I only had to learn half a dance. And we literally danced like 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. every day for a week to learn that half a dance. And I still forgot half of it when I got on the stage. So it wasn't as successful as it probably looked. I think it was some camera trickery making it look good. But I think doing that made people, I think it made them realize that people wanted to watch us do things like that. You know, again, it was very much like London 2012. The fact that we are just normal people, we're not afraid to make mistakes, to make a fool of ourselves. We're there for charity, we're just having a bit of fun. We were probably the hardest people ever to train. You know, the poor dance teachers had obviously never done dancing in wheelchairs, and trying to teach a blind guy how to do steps that he can't see, it was baffling. But they were absolutely amazing with us, and I think the producers enjoyed it because it gave them a chance to be creative and to try new things that maybe other people wouldn't have the patience to do. And obviously people tuned in and watched our show, so I think that was that. Ultimately, that's what sells TV. If people watch it, then they'll keep putting it on. So that's probably why they kept doing it.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, if you could educate people on only one thing about disability, what would it be?
That's a hard question. If I could educate people on one thing about disability, I think if I could educate people on one thing about disability, it would be that disability isn't always what it presents itself as. So what you see is not always the main thing that's wrong. So for me, everyone just assumes that I'm spinal damage because I'm a bit twisted and my back's all curved. Actually, my disability is completely brain damage. And my nerves just don't send messages and whatever. So, but people just assume, oh, she's in a wheelchair, so she just can't walk. Whereas actually, you know, I also can't write very well. I can't tie my shoelaces. There's loads of things I can't do. But people just look at the cover and look at what's obvious.
What's on the surface? Yeah.
So yeah, I think if I could change one thing, it's that people would understand how complex disability is, and it's never just the one thing that you can see. You know, you might see an amputee, but deep down there is something far more than just the leg that's missing that's wrong. So, you know, don't judge a book by its cover. Always ask how you can help, and ultimately, don't be nosy. It's not always someone else's, you know, we don't always want to share our stories. We don't always want people to ask, well, what's wrong with you? There's nothing wrong with me. I'm just living my life and getting on with it. So, yeah, that would be what I would change. I don't think it'll ever happen.
Okay. As a disabled person, Josh constantly feels the need to change others' perception of him in order to get them to treat him like everyone else. How do you think high-profile disabled people like yourself can help raise awareness that disabled people can function in the mainstream?
I really feel a responsibility to try and change people's misconceptions of what disabled people are. Starting out and even now, to be fair, people don't recognize me, don't know who I am. People crouch down and talk in my face and lean on my wheelchair and do all the things that I just hate. They don't talk to me, they talk to whoever's with me, and all the common things that you find with disabled people, I think people have done to me. And I don't know, I kind of like going to different places. Obviously I do a bit of TV work, I've got races, I've got different countries, I speak at lots of different events. I love going in and on my own and just talking to people. And it's amazing the amount of times that people are like, oh, you can do this for yourself. Like, I've had people in the past go, oh, I don't really know how to talk to you because I've never met anyone in a wheelchair before. And I've been like, you could just talk to me like you talk to everyone else, that'd be fine. I had someone ask me if I wanted a spoon to eat some popcorn. No, we could just eat it like you would eat it. I don't know anyone who eats popcorn with a spoon. So yeah, I feel a responsibility to kind of put that out there. I have a platform, online and in the media and in my sport as well, to show that, even though disabled people all have different struggles, most of the time we can do what other people do. And it's hard, it's hard to try and spread a message for everyone. I've just started a new role with the White Rose Shopping Centre in Leeds, so a shopping centre in Leeds, as their accessibility officer. Straight away, people jumped on Twitter saying like, "Oh, well, you'll only speak for wheelchair users. You won't think of anybody else." And I was like, "Well, no, I won't. I understand disability, and if you just allow me time to try and make the changes, then I'll do my best. I obviously don't know everything about every disability. I don't think anybody does, but let's discuss it. Let's you tell me your problems and I can take them forward and I can do something about them." So yeah, when someone comes to me with something they want to change, if I can use my voice for the better, then I definitely will. Otherwise, we're never going to make a change.
Definitely. Anything you want to add? No? Okay. Looking back at your career, what's your proudest achievement?
You ask really hard questions. My proudest achievement. My proudest achievement in my career. Oh, I don't know if, funnily enough, I think my proudest achievement in my career is in 2017, I was named the British Sportswoman of the Year. Let's all just take a minute to appreciate the lack of disabled sportswoman. I was a sportswoman without being disabled, which was quite nice. And I was the first Paralympian to ever win it in its 58-year history. And this wasn't a popularity contest. It wasn't an online vote. It was genuine journalists who follow our sport and who know everything about what everyone's doing. And they decided that year I was the best sportswoman in the country. So it's not a medal, but I think it was just, it's special to me because it was a culmination of a lot of work, a lot of years of hard work and all the medals put together. So yeah, that's probably my proudest moment.
Yeah, really good. And what's next for Hannah Cockroft?
Well, I'd love to tell you what's next for Hannah Cockroft, but that all depends on COVID, doesn't it? Yeah. Hopefully, what's next is the Tokyo Paralympic Games. We're a year behind, but hopefully we'll get out there. Beyond that, we've got World Championships in 2022 and, of course, a home Commonwealth Games, which will be my first ever Commonwealth Games. So that's just been announced that my event will be running there. So I'm excited for that. And then we're only 3 years off Paris. but I have to focus on Tokyo first. But
Yeah.
don't worry, there's plenty more in the pipeline.
So the fingers crossed, of course, you know.
Well, yeah,
Yeah.
hopefully it all happens.
Hopefully we're allowed to leave our homes again.
Well, who knows? I've been in isolation for 2 weeks. I'm driving myself mad.
Yeah, thanks for today. That was great. Thanks for your
No
time.
problem at all. No, thank you. Thanks for being so patient.
No,
Waiting
thanks
for
for
my
us.
year later email.
Yeah, Josh just said he'll let you know when he puts this up on his website, on his blog.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that'd be great. And then I'll put it out on my social media channels. And
It might not be for a little while, but
that's fine.
as and when. But yeah, it's been really good today. Thank you for your time.
No, thank you. No problem at all.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, stay safe.
You too. Nice to meet you.
Yeah, you too. Take care.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye.